Vital Information. This is another new band, of course.
Yeah. Well, 25 years is the end of, it's 1983 that I made the first album called Vital Information.
Yes.
But in fact, I was playing with the main members of the group even before that. And at that time, it was Tim Landers on bass and David Wilczewski on saxophone. And the three of us actually had known each other since we were teenagers, since high school time. And we had been playing together since we were like 15, 16, 17, like that.
All right.
And since Tim's a bass player, Dave's a sax player, we would play with different guitar players. That was usually what we would do. And we had a band, and when I was touring with Ronnie Montrose or Jean-Luc Ponty or Journey, and Tim was playing with Al Di Meola, and Dave was working with Freddie Hubbard and different people, we'd still get together once a year and play some gigs in Boston, where we're from. And it grew over the years. We had Barry Finnerty sometimes, Mike Thompson, let me think, Daryl Sturmer, Dean Brown, and Mike Stern. We all went to school together. And on my first record, so in '83, I got a record deal, and that's when we made the first record.
All right.
And that's with Mike Stern on guitar and Dean Brown on guitar, plus Tim Landers, Dave Wilczewski, and myself. So, and then we toured after that, and when we toured with the same group, except Mike Stern couldn't make the tour, so we used an incredible Dutch musician named Afe Albers.
All right.
On guitar.
Yes.
And he filled that bill of what I call the bop and roll guitar player.
Really?
It's got a big kind of rock blues sound, but plays very jazz-like information.
The bop and roll guitar
Bop
player.
and roll, and Afe is one of the greatest, really.
Yes.
And I had met him when I did a record with Focus in 1977, and Philippe Catherine and Afe were the two guitar players on the record. And I ended up working with both of them later.
Right.
And so then Afe is on the second Vital Information album called Orion. Both of those have been recently re-released on CD. And then we did two more on Columbia, Global Beat and Fia Fiaga, and those are still out of print, unfortunately. And then we did one for Blue Note called Vital Live. It was on Blue Note and Intuition, and now I own the rights to that one, and I'm going to reissue it pretty soon.
Okay.
And then there's another one that we did. Tim Landers left the band. Kai Eckhart joined us for a while, and then Jeff Andrews joined us on bass for a while. And then David left. He moved to Stockholm, and has been living in Stockholm ever since. So it was more and more difficult for him to be involved. And then we decided to go from a 5-piece to a 4-piece, and it was partly musical as a decision, but also partly financial, because the reality of trying to keep a band on tour is quite difficult. And by having 4 members, it made it much more affordable for us to tour.
It's already a big kind of prestation that you managed to keep the band together for 25 years.
It's a kind of a miracle, yeah, because it's difficult, very difficult.
Yeah, but it's working. You keep going on tour.
Yeah, we get by,
Okay.
As you can see, it's just the 4 of us. We don't have a road crew, or, so we keep it very low key as far as, spending money. It's still expensive. Especially in Europe, we fly everywhere.
Yes.
The hotels are expensive, but we love doing it. We love playing together and bringing the music, so we continue to do it.
Did you have any periods of thinking of stopping with Vital Information, or just? Yeah,
there's been times where situations in my life came up. Like, I got divorced in 1993, and that was a pretty difficult time, and so I stopped touring and readjusted my life a lot, stayed home a lot because I had young kids at the time.
Okay.
And spent a few years mainly focused on being a parent and not touring very much at all during those years. Then Vital Information got back together. We recorded a little, we did a couple of records for Intuition. One of them's called Ray of Hope. And then another thing came up, which was I did a Journey reunion in
Yes.
1996,
Yes.
95, 96. So that was 2 years the band didn't work. And then after that period was over, 1998 and 99, we started full on and have been going pretty strong ever since
Yes.
that period. And that's when we did Where We Come From, where we really reinvented our sound, where Tom played Hammond B3 and the accordion. And at the time, Frank Gambale was the guitar player, and he started playing a hollow body guitar, you know, got
Right.
more of a jazz tone in the music. And then we did a live record live around the world. In fact, we recorded one track on that at Milkbag. I believe
Okay.
Europa that's on that album was recorded at Milkbag in 1998 or 99. And then we did Show 'Em Where You Live. And then after that, Come On In was the next record. And then that was, the last version of that group with Frank Gambale. And then he left to pursue a solo career full time, which, you know, was developing over the years and got to the point where he really needed to move into working as his own band leader full time. And Vinnie Valentino joined the band. Now, Baron Brown joined us in 1999 when Jeff Andrews left the band in 1999, and Baron came in then. So it's been almost 10 years with Baron on the bass, and now with Vinnie Valentino, he joined 2 years ago now. It's coming up on 2 years ago.
Okay.
So and of course he fits right in with the direction of the hollow body jazz guitar sound, and his roots are in that style of playing, more coming out of the organ trio and the George Benson type of sound, and so that, you know, that fits in with whatever you want to describe what we do. It's kind of a high-powered fusion funk mixture.
It's
and
everything.
Got some Indian
Yeah.
elements mixed into it now, South Indian elements mixed into the music now.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you, because you develop yourself in
Yeah.
a great deal. It's amazing. So, how do you push that into the Vital Information band? How did you push it into the band over the
Well,
years?
I'm usually interested in developing something new and not necessarily that it's new in the scope of world music, but it's new for me.
Okay.
And so I'm usually exploring something that keeps me very interested in music and in playing the drums. And so, for instance, when it was in the late 90s, when we were making those records of Where We Come From and Show 'Em Where You Live, I was really rediscovering the roots of U.S. music. And I was rediscovering the beauty of the kind of groove music like the Meters,
Right.
with Zigaboo and Booker T and the MGs, and organ players like Jimmy Smith. And of course that's not new, and I had heard it before, but I was putting a new focus on, this is a great sound, and in learning a bunch of the James Brown kind of grooves, and then I bring it into the band in the way that when we get together to write an album, I have all these groove ideas and concepts, and the way we usually do it is I'll say, you know, here's a direction, and I'll play some of the grooves, and then we just start jamming, and out of those jams we write songs, and we record and we'll jam for like an hour or something, and then we'll listen and pick out some bits that sound particularly good, and then start to put them together and then compose music.
It's a group thing.
It's a group. Yeah. Now Tom brings in some finished songs, and Vinnie brings in some finished songs, and at the time Frank brought in some finished songs. But then we work with them until they make sense for all of us to play, and also they fit in the format. Like, you know, they're writing in such a way that they understand what the concept is, and then it fits in. So in a way, I usually take the lead as far as the concept of what we're going for at any given time. And so over the last 5 years, I've been interested in the Indian rhythms, and we've been slowly introducing that into the music. It started with "Come On In." There's a couple of things on that, like one thing where a couple of tracks where I'm playing this clay pot, the oudou,
Yeah.
and then there's a tune called Baton Rouge that's very much structured on Indian rhythms. It's all in 5, using some South Indian rhythmic devices, and then we took it a step further on vitalization, and I'm doing the conical because I've been working on it, so I'm to the point, you know, where you know, like where it's comfortable, so I can bring it into the music. And again, that just started at rehearsal, like jamming on that idea.
That's basically, that's of course the latest development of yourself.
Yeah.
What you study. How did the audience pick it up during the tour?
Seems
Are they
like
amazed or what?
It seems that like they really like it.
It's fairly new in the
Yeah.
music, so.
Yeah, it's not new because it's been around
Right.
for thousands
Yeah.
of years actually.
But Steve Smith is doing it. in
Yeah,
his
and
music,
it's
so-
new for me, and it's new for the Western audience.
Yes.
A lot of the Western audience, of course, not all, because there's a lot of people that have heard the great Indian drummers. You know, whether they heard them with Shakti, and they heard Zakir Hussain and Selva Ganesh, maybe with Shakti, or if they're fans of that music, they would have heard any number of people. But for the majority of the Western audience, it's pretty new. But you know, they've heard Srilak Gurtu has been, of course, doing that his whole career. You know, so there is some precedent for that. But in general, you know, I'm bringing it to an audience that hasn't heard it before, but people seem to really like it. And we've got just nothing but quite good reviews on the record too. And it works. I think it's done in such a way where if you do, like we do it in context with some very, say, groovy accompaniment.
Yeah.
Whereas in the traditional style, many times the conical stands alone. And it's just a singular voice, and you know, nothing. Maybe if there's anything else at all, it's the tambura. You know, it's the drone behind it. And by putting it in context of the groove, it probably makes it a little more comprehensible, because you can hear some phrasing as it relates to what's going on underneath it. So it may be a way, bridging a gap in a way of people starting to, you know, relate to it, because it can make a lot more sense rhythmically to them as they hear it in relation to the groove. But it's exciting for me, and it keeps me interested and you know, excited about each gig. I'm obviously not a drummer or a musician that enjoys recreating and doing the same old thing over and over again.
That's what we noticed during soundcheck.
And if I did want to do that, I'd still be playing with Journey. You know, let's just, you know, realistically, you know, that's an option. You know, it has been an option, and but I'm quite interested in moving forward, and I do it in a lot of different ways and in different fronts. I mean, this is one way of doing it with Vital Information, and I'm also doing it in another way with the group Jazz Legacy.
Yes.
And even though, again, that's not a totally new kind of music at all, you know, because it's based on jazz that's been played in the 50s and the 60s, most of it, in the 70s, some of it even in some of the music we do is actually quite modern in a way, because the Tony Williams music that we do is recorded in the 90s. But the idea of a group like Jazz Legacy really goes back to Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, or the Miles Davis Quintet, or the Tony Williams Quintet, 2 horns and a rhythm section. And we do highly arranged music in that kind of format. Now I grew up playing some things like that, but to present it now is in a new form is new and different for me. And I guess I have a sense that it's important to keep that music alive. And there's some great recordings of people that have done that in the past, but most of those people are not alive anymore. So in order for people to experience that music live, you know, we are playing the music live and bringing it to fans of the music and some young fans that never heard it that can experience it for the first time and experience how great that music is. And you know, so I adapt myself to that, where I play in the concept that I play in, but bring in the influence of Philly Joe Jones, Max Roach, Tony Williams, and Buddy Rich, and that, because that's the concept of Jazz Legacy. It really pays tribute to the masters of jazz drumming, and plays a lot of the music that they're associated with.
And what about the next Vital Information album already? Let's talk about that. Are there any?
At this point, we're not really thinking about a next album, because we're working on playing the music from Vitalization, and that's continuing to develop. If anything, if there's a next album, it could be a live album. That would make a lot of sense, because the music has developed a lot, and it may be something that we'll be interested in doing.
Okay.
But it's a little too soon to think, because right now, you know, there's usually a natural curve that happens from when the point where you conceive the music, you write it, you perform it, and then you get to the point where you're ready to do the next record. And we went through that with Come On In. It was written, played, developed, and then we got to the point, okay, now we're ready for something new.
But we know Steve Smith is always full of ideas, so just wondering if there were any.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Then we're gonna do this.
Go on. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, then my niggas, we gonna do another record. We gonna drop one on you. You know what I'm saying? Next Vital Information record. It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be popping. You know what I'm saying? So get it live, drop it. Look forward in the future. We're gonna be there. We're coming for you.